How do you refine, cultivate this sense of curiosity to get better at it?
I think it's a great question. Curiosity for me has always, and I can't say always, right? There was a period in my career where I thought I knew. And that's a real risk. I mean, there's so much danger in, I always say, never believe your own hype, no matter even if you might deserve it. Don't believe it, because what that does, it limits possibility. I believe that there is more than we can see when we look at the wall in front of us. I really do. And so that demands curiosity. Curiosity forces you to think differently, forces you to innovate, it forces you to ask questions like, okay, if I know there's a wall there, but I've got to get to the other side, if anything were possible, how would I do that? And so I ask young leaders, especially in interviews, what do you believe about possibility? What do you believe about being curious? And it's interesting to see that we've sometimes created a culture and a training style that doesn't demand people to be questioning. And I want them to be questioning. I want them to ask why. Why not? Why can't? And that's not a sign of somebody who's not willing to be and fall in line. That's a sign of somebody that wants to lead. And that's what we need, is people who are not afraid of thinking what's next. And I really believe that's why I've seen some success with my teams over the years, and why we see success at Remington is we believe in being curious, never accepting that, well, the market says this is how you should do it. That doesn't matter. What if we exist outside the market? What if we're different than the market? What if we have thinkers that are bigger and brighter? And, that just is exciting. To me, picking a wall or a hill and saying, we just can't climb that hill, that just takes the fun out of life, right? So I don't want to lead that way, and I don't want my teams to think that way.
I want to unpack a bunch of elements of culture because this has been a hallmark of your career, what you're building now at Remington. I want to stay on this moment, though, of saying open to inspiration from everywhere. Could I get a sense from you and the leaders that you work with that at Remington, you're thinking differently, which leads me to believe you have different inputs. And I'm curious we'll talk about in the organization, but outside the organization, maybe outside of hospitality, are there organizations or ideas that you're thinking about looking at these days that is expanding your sort of view of hospitality and what's possible?
Well, I think we'd be remiss not to look at who's really leading in all the different spaces. I mean, frankly, as a kind of a seasoned leader, we'll call it, right? The gray hairs and the wrinkles that we were talking about. It's easy to get stuck because hotels there's a lot about hotels that is very rote. It's check in, check out, have a meal, whatever, a meeting. But you got to look at people who've just crumpled up the paper and said, let's start over. Let's have hotels that are camping sites. Let's have hotels that are mud huts. Let's have hotels built into the side of mountains. And then you start thinking, okay, again, if anything's possible, what could the experience look like? And so we ask ourselves that. And that's what keeps us involved in all these exciting projects. Things we're moving into in the Caribbean and things that we're doing here in the States. We're going to have one of the biggest wellness resorts here out in California, moving into wellness travel. Like guys like me who grew up managing Hiltons and Marriotts and here's the manual and here's how you do it. That it's inspiring. And that's what I love, frankly, about moving into the soft branded space and the independent space, a lot of that work that we're doing, because you really can have inputs on, I think this could be better. I think I could adjust this experience this way. So we inform ourselves and we look at our teams and we ask questions, and we have a very diverse team, which is exciting. We hear from all the constituencies. Sloan, our CEO, is great about asking questions and seeking to understand. And, I call him young. I don't know exactly he may be 42 or 43. So young guy, right? And I love that because he's actually like a season behind me, but he pushes because he's got a different context. And it's exciting where we're going.
I want to get into what you're talking about today, but I wonder if we could look back just a little bit into that moment when the organization in Chesapeake that you were leading joined forces with Remington to create the company Remington Hospitality that you have today. If I look across all the companies that have attempted that, I don't see a sprig of successes industry-wide. And so it seems extremely hard to pull off. If I look at your business today and the results that you're putting up, it seems you did that well. And I'm curious, as you sit here today, if you kind of reflect back to maybe some of the factors that maybe were influential and kind of helping you, get to that organization, or not to get to the organization, but get to the results that you have today, because it seems that the results are different from what the industry norms are.
Well, the merger was really formed around culture. That was the first question that my partners and I had to answer was where, if we needed to take our business somewhere, which listen, there were circumstances that demanded us to think about that process. It wasn't a foregone conclusion, but if we could find a home where we believed our cultures would align, the people that we were bringing with us would align with the culture, and we could provide value, our third-party experience, add to an already great operating platform, and align with a company that really believed in what we were doing, and we believed in what they were doing, we had a good chance. Because you're right, these mergers are tough. You may think that you all do the same things, and listen, we experienced a whole bunch of fun things, right? I call them fun now, but they weren't always that fun, right? We used several similar platforms, but guess what? You can use those platforms in very different ways, is what we found out. So there was work, and it was exciting, and it was challenging, but here's the thing that mattered. Cypress trees, I know you feel like I'm going off on a diversion here, but cypress trees, like in Denver, Colorado, they grow, and they're beautiful, and they grow in these stands, and what you see is a beautiful stand of trees, right? But underneath, their root systems grow together. And what's interesting about those is if you burn the trees down, they would come back because they're all interlinked below, and they would grow back as a stand. And that is kind of how we came together as a company. Our culture is what's under the soil. It's not movable. It's not changeable. And when it's the truth, you can burn it down or you can have challenges. It's going to come right back strong. And so that's what it had to be. It had to be built on a platform that was not movable. And so that's where we started. And once you have that, then you believe operationally that you can do anything, and you believe commercially in the sales side. Because listen, when you put a platform together like ours, well, you can really attract great talent. And we have incredible talent at Remington, and that has helped us to continue to lead. We see great commercial results. And what does that happen? That creates people that want to work with us, clients, new customers. And that's what we're seeing in our pipeline. People are reaching out to us. Hey, you guys are doing something special. We want to be part of it. And it's really great for development, right? It really reduces the effort on the outbound and helps with the inbound.
It seems some of the most powerful concepts in hospitality, like culture, I find a little hard to define because it feels a little bit woo-woo, but you see that it drives business results. It drives owners, developers reaching out saying, hey, I want to work with Remington versus another organization. I guess when you think about the word culture in the context of hospitality, what is culture? How do you define that?
I define it pretty much, we say Remington is a place where passionate people thrive, but I define it that it doesn't matter what Chris Green or Sloan Dean says sitting at the board table. I want us to be one thing. It matters what the housekeeper in Boston Back Bay or the housekeeper or the front desk agent in Key West is experiencing in their life, because we all have a different set of circumstances. And we all have a different belief in what thrive means or what possibility means in our life. And so that's what's complex about culture. Culture is not something, it's not a word, it's not a slogan. It's an actual statement by leadership that we're going to attend to you. Here's the thing. Nothing really happens. I'm not making an impact on our guests here today talking to you. I'm talking about what I believe about the industry. Who's making an impact is the 10,000 people that are out in the field for us, serving our guests, creating experiences, doing the right thing, making people feel safe, welcomed, and just have something that they can remember about their stay. So that's what really a culture is when people are attached to the outcome. And our job is to give them an outcome they want to be attached to.
How do you do that as a leader? You mentioned kind of the magic's happening on the ground on the front lines. How do you decide how to allocate your time such that it's going to empower them to create that magic?
Well, nothing happens without them. So in my in my allocation of time, and I know Sloan's as well, I mean, it'd be very easy to fill our days with board meetings and conferences and all that. But if you're not thinking and acting upon what really affects the associate, a large part of your time, you're making a mistake, because it doesn't matter. I always tell everybody, it doesn't really matter. We can say we have great financial results, and we do. We can say we have great commercial results, and we do. But that all stems from everybody's little piece on that journey of the hospital. So what we do, yes, we run a management company, but what we really do is operate hotels and welcome guests. That's all we really do. So let's make sure that that is perfect. And if we fix that and make sure our associates love what they do about it and they care about it and they feel cared for, everything else falls into place. This business is not super hard. You can do it in reverse. And I see a lot of people do that. They financially engineer their organization and they manage it to non-existence, right? I had a great manager. I was in the restaurant business when I was very young, and I was a kitchen manager. And this guy, he was not college educated. He was just a really good leader. And I was showing him how proud I was that I had ran this really low food cost my first month as the kitchen manager. And truth be told, I might have taken some shortcuts. Maybe. I was a young man and I wanted to prove myself. And he said, Chris, if you always focus on cost, you'll get your sales down to where you can handle them. And that's stuck with me the rest of my life. And when you really think about that comment he made, if you're only focused on the numbers and on the costs and on controlling things, the people don't matter. They're not your focus. And your sales will eventually either be non-existent or you'll just go out of business.
What have you found useful in speaking with owner partners in helping them understand the vision and making commitments with you on these type of investments that deliver the sort of outcome that you're describing?
Jen, you got to be of integrity. I mean, again, right? It all falls back to what is your underlying root system of your organization. If it's not built and foundationally built on integrity, honesty, doing the right thing when it's easy and when it's hard, then you're not going to build trust in the marketplace and build trust in your ownership group. I believe that we have a large set of owners all that really believe in who we are as a company, and they believe, right? When we talk to them in the beginning, we lead with culture. We talk to them about why we're going to be the employer of choice and how we believe we're going to win our marketplaces. And if an owner can get their head around that that's the number one thing, we're going to be aligned, right? Because the financials are going to come. The commercial success is going to come. So we've really got to find owner partners that while they want to outperform and see strong cash flows and great returns on their assets, the old days of putting your thumb on the costs and just turning the screws until you could get a good outcome and then selling it, those days are not here anymore. People won't stand for it. People won't work for those companies. And without people, hospitality's dead.
This is a great point. I think just riffing on this notion of people a little bit more, spoken with people across the organization, and I feel that one of the things that feels you do well at Remington is training your teams. And I feel like every organization talks about training. Maybe they do a little bit of training, but really getting into the details of this, I think whether it is offsites or conventions or on the property trainings, it feels like you're thinking comprehensively about this. I wonder if you could speak, to any element of this aspect of your business, training, education, or people development. How do you think about it? And what are maybe some specifics that you're especially proud of that you're doing differently at Remington?
I'm super proud of our efforts in training. In hospitality, and I've always been the person that talks the straight talk. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in the day at a hotel. So you may want to spend a lot of time with your front desk agent, training them on interaction with guests or how to handle challenging guests or concerns. But that time is when you're also trying to meet labor standards and you're trying to meet investment thesis on a hotel. You got to be really careful that you prioritize. Again, back to your foundation. Do you believe it or not? Is it true or not? If it's true, then you'll find time. So we've been really working with a few companies that really do a great job with microlearning, digitally delivered learning that people can do on their own time. When they have 5 minutes break at the front desk, they can do a snippet, take a quick test, get a certification, and keep moving their career forward. And they get told through their email and through their payroll system how they're doing, what their next position is, seeing that growth path in the industry. And then like on the sales side, right? We've had to adjust the way sales is done in hospitality over the past few years. It used to be very specialized market segment selling. And now we have a lot more generalists that sell across markets because, frankly, the markets got blended. The segments got blended over the past few years. You've got the leisure, and then the business leisure. It's just a lot is happening. So you've got to teach the sales team how to deliver commercial results differently. So we've invested in training for them. Same thing, online, take it on your phone, listen to it on a podcast. I mean, it's just really forward-thinking training delivered in a way that not my generation, but the next generation is used to seeing things. And it's working. I mean, we're seeing huge results. The people who complete our sales training, we have an award every year, the Pinnacle Award, right, for our leaders in sales. And the people who complete the sales modules have a 3-to-1 chance of making Pinnacle compared to those that don't. So we know the value of it. So it's how do we consistently deliver it? We're not perfect. Not any company is perfect, but we are trying and we're putting effort there and we're putting our money where our mouth is.